Welcome everyone to 3 Secrets for Safe Money and a Fabulous Future. I'm excited to be here with you today, and what we're going to talk about is how to create income you'll never outlive. And I'm pretty excited to share my 32 years of experience. That's right, 3 decades. I've helped over 6,000 people, and no one on my watch has ever lost one dime in any market risk. So I'm on the safe money side, and I'm going to talk about how to keep your money safe and to protect your assets. So let's get started here. I've been doing this, like I said, 3 decades, and I want to show you how to transform the losses to gains. And there's a lot of things that it's hard to think about when you're 20. It's hard to imagine what it's like when you're 40, let alone when you're 40. What about 60, 80, 100? Each age has its own set of applications that must be taught and aware and learned. And that's why I've consolidated 3 decades into this show today, to be able to get you up to date on the things that you can do so your money is safe. You got a plan. And that's what I talk about in my #1 best-selling book, Ready for Pre-Retirement. Plan retirement early. Now, don't feel bad if you're just starting. Maybe you're already retired. I work with people all the way up to 92. So it's just all about getting started when you can. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, go ahead and put in the chat your response to this. But what I want to ask you is, how will the market losses affect your savings? Are you paying too much taxes, right, on the investments? State, federal, some Social Security, depending on what age you are, and are your assets protected if you need long-term care? Now, I'm going to tell you about my gift to you, Financial Fitness Strategy Session. That's right. And at the end of this program, I'm going to be able to offer you a link, and you can see it, meetwithchrismeller.com, if you want to hop on my calendar. And I don't charge for this. I'll give you 20 minutes to see if I can help you and see if we can get you going in the right direction. So, again, do you want to protect your assets from losses, taxes, and long-term care? Yes. Okay, now put it in the chat. Affirmation helps you. Yes, you're going to commit yourself to learning about this so your assets are protected. Now, the things in retirement, like I said, if you're retired or already, we can get you up to date, but we want to kick it off so that you are in success. Now, when I first got started, I was working with an attorney as a paralegal, creating revocable living trust back in 91, 92. And we were at a senior center, and the widow was there, and all she had was a car and a house and no money. And the attorney wanted to charge her $5,000. 91, 92, right? 1991 or 92. And she didn't have any money. And I just looked at him and said, "Hey, can you give her a deal?" And he looked at me like, "No." And I said, "Bye." It was heartless. I couldn't do it. And I decided, you know what? That just propelled me into my own business. I'm going to make it easy for the average person to get a living trust. And I was one of the first people in Southern California to do workshops on what is a revocable living trust. And after that, I ended up breaking the market. I was really giving away the trusts, and it was quite an exciting experience. I did such a great job. It was hard for me to raise my own prices, but that's okay because we got the word out. Now, the word is that there's some alligators that are swimming around here. We're trying to swim to the other side of the swimming pool, right? And get there in one piece. But these alligators, they're hidden and they're dangerous. There's things that are happening a lot of us don't know about. So you need to take time to learn about what I'm talking about. You can grab my book or take time to learn about these topics, but we'll consolidate it today so you'll have a general idea of where to go. Now, I talk about 3 secrets. It's not secret for safe money. It's just not talked about. And we know we're being watched all day long, right? So we're trying to get to the other. What do you think the first alligator is, right? I gave away that answer here. Wall Street. And it's pretty crazy. If you're, just about to retire, which a lot of people are right now, and the market drops 40%, 60%. Look at what happened this year. That's catastrophic because you can't go make that money back. So you need to make sure that your assets are safe, that they're protected from the market loss. That's pretty fabulous to learn about. And, that's what I learned about 30 years ago. And that's what I teach my clients is how to be safe and never lose a dollar in any risky stock market. Now, the stock market has pros, of course, it has cons. So there's a balance that you need to have when you're putting your assets in different places to grow. It's like a casino. You got to realize that money is in a roulette wheel. And that's what I saw. It was 3 decades of people would either, it was like the roulette wheel. Will it be up or down when I retire? That's the stock market. That's where your nest egg is. That's why I'm saying, hey, take a moment out here, take a deep breath, and let's look at this. Now, remember, it's not just what you earn, it's what you keep. And there's something really tricky about all of that. Oh, here's another one of those alligators, taxes. And we're going to be clobbered by taxes. Inflation is a sneaky way of taxes too. The cost of all the gas and the food and everything that's happening right now, that's another form of taxes. So when you're looking at your plan and you're looking at your budget, you want to make sure that you're looking at all of those things so you are safe. Now, when you retire, there's some taxes that you want to make sure that you're going to be aware of. And several years ago, I was invited. I'm a national speaker. I go all over the country and speak. In fact, you can invite me to your group or your church or your civic organization. I'm a national speaker. But back a few years ago, I was invited to speak to the U.S. Government Financial Officers Association. That's right, in Washington, D.C. These are the guys that handle the billions and trillions of dollars. Very, very lots of money going through this particular agency. And I was giving this same program. And when I went there, this is a few years ago, I had to make sure that I had everything, all the information right. So back a few years ago, the IRS code book was 74,608 pages. There are 870 different tax chapter headings. Think you might be missing something? Right. So really, this is what's so important here. Now, when I talked about this, we went through the main things about Social Security tax, Social Security, capital gains, taxes on interest income, and taxes on death. Those are the taxes you're going to want to be aware of. But when I was in front of this room of a few hundred people, I said, how many of you are ready for retirement? It was crickets. They looked at me like, what? Maybe 2% raised their hand. And I looked at the officer and I said, hey, what's going on here? You guys are the government. I thought I was kind of being cute. And the director looked at me and said, we're busy taking care of other people's money. Okay, but that's what we're doing. That's what we do. We're just so busy living our life, raising our kids, taking care of our business that we're not really paying too much attention to the money. And this is what you need to know about now, all of these taxes. So how are they going to determine the Social Security tax? If you're married, you make 32, you single, make 25. They can use a 50% calculation out of that money for those taxes. And married 44 and single 34, they're going to use 85% calculation to take money out. That's right, from your Social Security if you're still working after your full retirement age. They can actually get $1 out of $3 from your Social Security. Did you know that? Something to really be aware of. Now, there are a lot of different benefits, and I'm not going to really go down too much. I have a whole program on Social Security and on retirement, But I do want to be aware that women seem to be a little bit stuck. 61% of women are really, they're going to be responsible for their retirement. And this retirement really isn't the same kind of retirement that our parents had. You know, my daddy, he was born in 1919. He was a genius. He did really well in the stock market, but it's not the same kind of stock market we had then. Now, here's Einstein, so smart, right? The hardest thing to understand in the world is income tax. That's right, from Einstein. We have capital gains, right? There's taxes on your home, the stock market, and there's actually ways you can get around that too. And so what I want you to do, here's a little quick homework for you to get box 8A, 8B, and 9 off your last 1040 form or your next one, and to see how much extra taxes you're paying. That's right. You're paying lots of extra taxes, and there's ways that you can learn about how to get around those taxes. That's one of my gifts that I get to share with my clients. And then we have estate taxes. Now, those estate taxes are going to reset in 2025, 2026, and we're going to get in those numbers, but that is a huge thing that can wipe out presently up to people that have over $11 million. I think they're going to reset it to a lower number because they need money, but we'll see. You need to pay attention to this. Now, here are the 3 or 4 different ways that you can lower the taxes. One is a traditional tax-deferred annuity. You don't pay the taxes till you take the money out. So you're going to get triple compounding. You're going to get the money you would have paid in taxes still in the account growing, so the whole thing grows 3 times as fast. Muni bonds, that's why I said 3. I'm not really thrilled with muni bonds. I don't really want to have a bond for bankrupt cities like, Riverside, California, or LA, or you name it. A lot of these cities are bankrupt. Index Universal Life, that's one of my favorites. That uses investable life insurance, tax-free income for life. And I'm going to tell you about that. This is a secret. A lot of people know about it. And this is a great way to grow wealth and have it come out tax-free while you're alive. And then we have the e-bonds, which I'm not that excited about anymore either. So, again, how important is tax deferral? You're going to get interest on your principal, interest on your interest, and interest on the money you would have paid in taxes. You can defer taxes, right? Remember this guy? Mick Jagger. He's still performing in his 70s, right? But I bet you he has an annuity. Smart people get annuities. So what's more important? Peace of mind or higher rate of return? I want safety. I want liquidity. I want tax advantages with no probate, good returns without a risk. And I want to make sure that my money's protected from catastrophic illness. Now, annuities have been around since the Middle Ages, and only the rich people have known about them. They were used back in the kings and queens' day. An annuity is like a savings account with an insurance company. You never lose your principal. There's a floor on it. So if the money goes up 2%, you get 2%. The money goes down 2%, nothing happens. It's locked in. So you're catching the upside of the market. They're fabulous. This is where I have most of my retirement plan for the last 30 years. And I've done very well. Back in 2008, I did not lose one dime. In fact, I actually made anywhere from 2 to 4% while people were losing money in my annuity. I actually had one that paid me 6. So they're fabulous ways to keep your assets safe. Now, do you want less tax and more money? Of course you do. Hey, there's that go with meetwithchrismiller.com. That's how you can jump on my calendar to get the free financial fitness strategy session. We'll talk about that later, like I said. So again, you want less tax, more money? Yes. You're going to get interest on your principal, interest on your interest, and interest on the money you would have paid in taxes. Pretty cool, right? Now, here is the PhD of planning, There's only two places that your money will be when you retire: taxable and tax-free. So the taxable is pretty much everything that you own: stocks, bonds, mutual funds, IRAs. All of those things are going to be taxed. Yeah, your IRAs, your 401ks, guess what? They come out as ordinary income. A big tax bomb. That's right. Your qualified money is a tax bomb. Now, there's only a few tax-free areas that you can have your money these days. We have the muni bonds, which I already told you I'm not a big fan of. We have Roth IRAs. Those are great, but you're limited into how much money you can put into that IRA, right? And then we have the investable life insurance. So I'm going to break this down a little bit so you can understand how this works. There's a big problem with your IRA. It's not worth as much as you think. So when you draw your retirement income from your IRA, it's going to be owed at ordinary income taxes. So if you think you've got $100,000 and you're in the 40% tax bracket, you really only have 60. And this is how you got to think about when you're putting your whole plan together. There are a lot of variable things here you have to look at, not just one thing. But there's a solution. It's called the IRA Reboot. It allows you to convert your IRA into a tax-free, I said it, tax-free with no out-of-pocket risks. That's right. So the real value of your account could be 20 to 40% less than you expected. Now, let's just say you have $1 million, okay? And you can add zeros or subtract zeros. So after the tax, it'd really be 600, 700,000, depending on your tax bracket, right? So how do you turn this $1 million of taxable into $1 million of tax-free money, right? So this is how it works. You're going to systematically transfer the IRA assets into a cash accumulated life insurance policy over 3 to 5 to 10 years, depending on your age. These taxes are paid internally by participating policy loans, which just means you can pay the taxes with the death benefit. That's right, so that your full million or 100,000 or whatever it is can go in to the account to actually earn these amazing interest rates tax-free. So what it's going to do is it's going to reduce your taxation a third to a half during this conversion. You're going to get tax-free guaranteed retirement income. You're going to get tax-free long-term care coverage and tax-free wealth transfer. This is so fabulous. And we'll come back to that because this all ties together. It's a plan. It's not a product. It's a lifestyle. Healthy money, happy life. It's a plan. And here it is, catastrophic illness. This one is really hard for me. Honestly, I have to kind of grid my loins here and pull it up because it just makes me want to cry. Why? Well, my mommy came up to me one day and she had this piece of paper in her hand. And honey, Mom, what's wrong? She had these tears in her eyes. She said, honey, I want you to share this with your clients. And I said, what, Mom, what? And I looked at it, and it was a bill from Stanford Hospital for $1 million over the year. What do you mean? She was paying $90,000 for 5 days of chemo. She had chemo 5 days every month for a year. Okay, do the math. Pretty close to $1 million, right? That's pretty rugged. They didn't have long-term care. Now, God bless my daddy. He was a genius. He actually went to Caltech and was taught by Einstein. Yep, he did a few classes with Einstein. He did very well. He had multi-millions of dollars. He did not have long-term care. So he literally paid out of his pocket. $1 million is not a lot of money. If you think, oh, I'm just going to self-insure. because they went through millions of dollars. Catastrophic illness. You know, you just can't imagine what a nightmare it is, really. You know, we're living longer than before, and 7 out of 10 of us are going to end up in a nursing home after 65. But guess what? These numbers are pre-pandemic, so they're bigger. So it's really important to have this plan included into your plan so that you can stay in your own home. That's what the 1% do, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do. Because most people will end up penniless within two-thirds, right? Within a year, will end up penniless. It's shocking. And Medicare's not going to cover it. 1 out of 5 under 50 is at risk of needing long-term care this year. So this is very important. Most people don't really understand how this works. But you have a choice. You can get long-term care insurance. You can get what's called a modified endowment contract. There's several ways of going about it, but let me just tell you, I don't like the standalone long-term care insurance. Some cases it fits, but the majority of the people, it's just like car insurance. You're just spending money every month for something you may never use. There is a better plan called life insurance, a vegetable life insurance that actually lets you use the death benefit while you are alive in a nursing home. And you have to have health. You got to be able to qualify for it. But there's some very good programs out there that you'll be able to get at. So what I want you to do is expect the unexpected. 3 out of 100 are going to have a fire in their home. How many of you have fire insurance, right? 18 out of 100 people will have a car accident. And 7 out of 10 will require long-term care. The cost is $5,000 to $20,000 a month. That's right. My mom's care was $15,000 a month. That's beside the chemo. That's just care, 24-hour care. This is in 2010. These numbers that I'm telling you are all from 2010, okay? My daddy's care that he had in 2016, he fell, and he was 91, and he needed care, and he didn't want his kids to take care of him. So we had to find care. And I found care around $10 an hour, CIA fingerprint approved, great caregivers, and that was $70,000 a year. And my daddy lived another 6 years to 96.1. So this is a very intense thing. It's nothing you want to leave your kids to go through. It's pretty traumatic to go through your dad's drawer and to figure out how you're going to pay these huge bills, right? How are you going to pay for it? Now, Medicare's not going to cover it. They're only going to cover, well, they cover the first 20 days. You're going to co-pay the next 60 days. And after 90 days, you're on your own. And that's when you've got to have this plan set up, right? Because if you pay out of the pocket, you can just say goodbye to your estate. Like I said, $1 million is not a lot of money. But you can see by these numbers, home care is really expensive. Nursing homes are very expensive. And you need to have this built in your plan. And like I said, the 3 things that I've seen, because I've seen over 6,000 portfolios that people miss, whether they have multi-millions. I had one client, he had multi-millions, 44 million in fact, all in real estate, and he didn't have a living trust. Okay, so it doesn't matter that you have so much money. It's a good point to pay attention that you may have a hole in your boat. And there are 3 of those holes: the long-term care, the probate conservatorship, and the money in the risky stock market. Those are the ways that people will end up losing their estate. And long-term care protection is just part of the plan so you can stay comfortable and stay in your own home and not have to go to a nursing home, because that's the best way to be, in your own home. And that's what I show my clients how to do. It's very, very beautiful, you know, and it's really important that you pay attention to why it's important to get your assets safe. Now, they have countable and exempt assets, and I have a whole other program on how to set all of this up. I'm just giving you the 10,000 mile view. Now, it's an ideal investment, and the idea is peace of mind. So if you have your assets safe, you never lose your principal, the money's tax deferred or tax free, you're going in the right direction. Ugh. Another one of these alligators. Now, this alligator, like I told you, I've been doing living trust for 32 years. And proud to say I've made over 6,000, stop counting, and never had one problem. They all work just fine. And what happens is when you set up a revocable living trust, those assets will go directly from you to your family with no middlemen. It doesn't go to court, doesn't go to an attorney, it doesn't go through me. It goes directly from you to your family, and that's what I show you how to do. Now, what happens after your death? Fortunately, there are strategies that you can do that will enable you to protect your assets. So, what is an estate? An estate is simply all the wealth that you've accumulated during your lifetime. Stocks, bonds, business interests, basically everything you own. Now, when we follow a typical estate through probate, let's take the Andersons. We'll find out that they're going to end up in probate. What's probate? Courts. What do courts take? Attorneys. And what do attorneys take? Let me hear you. Put it in the chat, right? Okay, money. That's right. They can take 5 to 25% of the estate. And that's if it's not contested. If it's contested, you may end up with a third of the estate. And I'm a witness to that. I've seen it many times. It's a nightmare. This is not what you want to experience, especially if your loved one passes away. Seriously. You'll end up in probate, which is courts, which take time. They're costly, and there's no privacy. Then we have the estate tax. Like I said, in 2025, that is all going to reset. So as of now, it's around 11.2 million per person that you can protect from estate tax. And there are ways to protect estates that are bigger than that. And you can ask me offline, and I'm going to be happy to share that with you, because what we do is customize the plans for wherever level you're at. So there are 3 distribution techniques we'll talk about. Do nothing, have a will, and have a trust. Dying intestate is dying without a will, and when you die without a will, you'll end up in probate, which is courts, which we know take money. You'll be not only vulnerable to that, but the estate plan view from the government's point of view. They'll appoint someone, maybe your next of kin that you don't really like, right, to handle the estate. And you'll be vulnerable to all the fees and taxes that are put on your estate to go through the probate process. Joint tenancy. Now, you'll be vulnerable to joint tenancy. You know, a lot of people think they'll go to their bank and they'll say, oh, put your kids on your bank account. That is not a very good thing to do as a joint tenant, because all joint tenants are vulnerable to creditor claims. That's right. So that creditor could come after your kid on your bank account. Doesn't matter that it's your money. It makes you vulnerable to all creditor claims. Maybe they got divorced. Maybe they got into an automobile accident. It makes you vulnerable. Don't set your estate up with people on there as joint tenants. Very, very dangerous. Well, what about a will? Now, that's what most people think about in estate planning, is a will. What is a will? A will is simply a list of instructions that tell the judge exactly how you want to have your estate distributed if the probate court upholds your will. There are other considerations of the fees and taxes that are imposed upon your death. So that is not what you want. You don't want a will. Now, living trusts act as a prenuptial agreement in community property states. So you could actually keep your assets separate for a second marriage. And we'll talk about that. The living trust. That's my favorite. And that completely avoids probate. It helps you control the distribution of your estate. It minimizes all the fees and taxes that are thrown on your estate and completely avoids probate. Another beautiful thing is it has a conservatorship. Conservatorship. If you become incapacitated and don't have somebody that you love to be able to help you, guess what? The courts will come in and appoint somebody to you. And you may not necessarily like who those people are. So it's very important that you maintain complete control over those assets. Now, I'm going to throw this in there. A good living trust will have not only conservatorship, but guardianship. This is what's so crazy. When you're younger, you just never think you're going to die. So mom and dad go out to dinner and don't come back. Who's going to take care of the kids? Think about this now. We're in crazy times. You need to have this set up no matter what age you are. You don't have to be 70, 80 to set up your living trust. Do it now. You maintain all control over all the assets you place in the trust. And simply what you're doing is changing the title from you yourself to you yourself trustee of the trust. If it's really that easy, how come we haven't heard about this before? Well, I'm doing my best to broadcast. I have a podcast called Money 911. Please, available everywhere. Go subscribe. I have some great shows about health, wealth, and peace of mind. But I'm one voice, so you got to tell your friends. These living trusts have been around since the Middle Ages. That's right. A long time. So we're bringing it out and we are telling people about it. Now, let's talk a few case strategies so you can see how this works. Mr. Smith. They have the 2 children, both married. Their estate is worth $200,000. They have an estate worth more or less $200,000, and the 2 kids are in college. With this trust, they're going to save $30,000 to $50,000 or more in probate fees. So when they set up that living trust, they're going to put all the assets in the name of the trust. And upon both of their death, those assets will go directly to their 2 sons without any probate. How beautiful is that? Mr. Goodman. He's a widower. He has no children. So he's going to leave his estate to his friends' children. And his estate's worth about $350,000. This program, the Living Trust, will protect him up to $45,000 to $60,000 or more in probate fees. Now, upon his death, those assets are going to be held in trust till his friend's children are old enough to legally use the gift. And he can actually customize how these assets will go to the children. They got to go to college. They have to be gainfully employed. You can really design this after the grave, controlling your assets to these people, to the kids, or whoever you're going to leave your estate to, or your charity, or what your give back is. So there's some very nice things you can do there. Now, upon his death, those assets will go to his friend's children, and this allowed Mr. Goodman to maintain complete control of his assets even after the grave, avoid conservatorship, avoid probate, and control the distribution. Now, mind you, I have done over 6,000 revocable living trusts. And a few of my clients had children that were on alcohol or drugs, and they were having a hard time. So they actually set that up that the kids would receive their assets after, say, they were in rehab for a few years and gainfully employed. They can stipulate exactly what to happen. Here's one for you. Bing Crosby had a living trust, and his trust was set up that his heirs would not receive anything until they were 65. And they had to do something huge for the world, like write a book or some charity before they got all his money. So, yeah, you can control the assets. Now, a few other estate planning strategies that our trust includes is a living will. Now, living wills authorize a termination of any artificial life support in the event of a terminal illness by two doctors. I'll take four. And that way you can go naturally and not be on any life support. Make sure you give that to your doctor ahead of time. Power of attorney for financial. Very important to have your financial matters protected because, hey, if I go skiing and break my leg and I can't get to work, I can have somebody I trust to pay my bills and handle my business affairs so I'm back in shape to use it again. So financial is very important. I don't care if you don't have a lot of money. You still should have the same with the power of attorney for health care. Now, mind you, we just coming out of a pandemic. How important is this? Now, a lot of people want their own medical wishes taken care of. A lot of people are in complementary medicine. A lot of people don't want drugs. Some people want drugs. Everybody's got a different point of view about health. Health is wealth. So take care of yourself. But in the meantime, make sure you have your power of attorney for health care set up with somebody that you love and trust. And make sure you get it to your doctor. A doctor has a copy of it ahead of time, so your family isn't running around looking for it, right? It's in the file. Maybe you've got one already. Make sure you do that. And you want to keep the money out of court. That's the whole idea of having a revocable living trust. It's not just the end of life document. As you can see, it's avoiding all the cost and time and delay in the end of life, right? Which allows you to control your assets. But it's also going to protect you from incapacity, if things happen in conservatorship, powers of attorney for financial and health care. We all need, no matter what age we are. Oh, this alligator, this guy's kind of got a gross looking mouth here. I think he grabbed somebody's estate. The banker, right? Now, we all know the banks are the first to go in things that are shaking. Now, the money world is shaking, and it is changing right before our eyes. So it's so important that you have your money safe. I'll just tell you this. Every $100 you have with a bank, they maybe got $75 to $5 in reserve. That's right. Every $100 you have with an insurance company, they have $125 to $135 in reserve. Now, I always say this jokingly, but lately I'm kind of taking this serious. Insurance companies will be the last to go before Jesus comes. And I'd say that jokingly, but these days I am looking at it very seriously. It's really important, the point that your money is safe. Okay, so banks are okay. You don't have to go run and take everything out. I'm a big fan of small banks, but you want to have them for emergency funds and cashing checks, but they're clueless on planning. I've had clients go in there and say, what happens if I go to a nursing home? And the bank will say, you need to see a certified senior advisor, someone like me, or an elder estate planning specialist attorney. That's what they tell them. But if you go to that same bank and say, hey, I've got $50,000 to invest, they'll say, oh, you need to put it into, and they'll name some companies to put it into. But they don't know about retirement planning. Something is a little off there. Now, everything's automated. We learned about them in 2008. They take our money and loan it out on real estate. And like I said, they're the first to shake. So that's not where you want to store your money either. Now, they're nice for cashing checks. Can we come back to that alligator? I think I've got one of those too. Got to be honest. We all have one. Procrastination. Look, I don't want to deal with it. I'm so shocked. Look, this last market reset when it went down, crashed, whatever you want to call it, 25% in the first quarter loss, right, during the time of this recording. I had people they didn't even want to look at their money. They're just like, okay, I'm just going to put it in there and not look at it. That's not really very smart. The idea is for you to look at how much money do you want to gamble and how much money do you want to have safe. You want it safe, especially now in the reset that's happening on the planet. Be aware, but don't procrastinate. We all have that alligator. I can't remember where I put mine. Maybe it's under the bed. Maybe it's in the closet. I don't know. I forgot. I don't know where mine is. But you know what? When I get out of procrastination and do it, I feel so good about myself. And now I want you to be able to retire rich and retire stress free. And that gives you what I call financial peace of mind. I also call it an estate of mind. When your affairs are in order, it's a wonderful thing that you don't have to worry about. Just knowing in the back of your mind, all those things are taken care of. And, I don't know what you're waiting for. Maybe more time. Have you noticed that the days are quickened? How about more money? Apparently, there's a lot less happening. What about stress? I think that thermometer is about to pop. That stress level is maxed, right? Or maxing. We're not at the top or the bottom yet. So why do we procrastinate? It's uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about money. I love my bank that my husband banked at. Just because he banked at it, people are like attached emotionally. Hey, I have spent more of my time coaching people on safe money than I have had writing applications, honestly. So that's why I've created the program, and you can find out about that. Shift Your Life Group Coaching, which mixes mindset with money, and that is so powerful. And you can check me out on Healthy Money, Happy Life, and LegacyShifters.com. Lots of great things that you'll be able to learn because it's building a foundation. So this is a foundation that we're talking about right now. And we can make it comfortable. That's right. So let me ask you that question again. Do you want safe money? Yes. Put it in the chat. Yes. Where do we go from here? See that? Meetwithchrismiller.com. Chris with a K, right? If you're listening to this on my Money 911 podcast. And by the way, we do have all of these posted in my YouTube channel, Legacy Shifters. But I want you to be aware right now that we do have a roadmap. So since you've said yes, that you do want your money safe, there is a cure. And to move in the right direction, the choice is yours. Use the tools, eliminate the confusion. Don't feel obligated by the past and all that emotion. Come in for your virtual, and I do have an office, but I'm meeting virtual all over the country, financial fitness strategy session. That's right. Going to get your assets in shape, right? It's fascinating how much health and wealth are symbiotic because saving money is just like dieting. So we're going to make it fun. So go to meetwithchrismiller.com. That'll put you on a calendar. And what I'll do is a financial fitness strategy session. I'll ask your age, your health, your wealth, your goals, and answer your questions. And then I'll do research if I can help you. Then we'll come back again. I'll share a plan with you. I'll mail it to you. And then that way you can ask me some really good questions. We'll go from there. And guess what? That is complimentary. That's right. I'm not charging you for that part. Normally it's $1,000, but I will waive that fee if you refer to this webinar event that you will be watching. And I'm excited to share with you because you are going to protect your assets from losses, taxes, and long-term care. Financial fitness strategy session. Meetwithchrismiller.com. And then we'll be able to talk about each one of those things. Watch this again, and you'll be able to absorb some more so you'll be able to ask me some good questions too. Remember, it wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. That's a fact. These are the times to really pay attention. Like things are moving really fast. The world is changing before our eyes, but there's certain things that do remain the same that we want to make sure that we protect our assets from losses and catastrophic illness and market loss. So again, I just want to invite you to hop on the phone and talk with me for a financial fitness strategy meet with chrismiller.com. It's been a joy to share my 3 decades with you, and I'm really looking forward to being able to connect with you live, and we'll be able to talk about healthy money for your happy life. And have a blessed day.